Good morning. My name is Ian Hill. I'm with the Vusion channel team. I'm one of the partner account managers here. I'd like to welcome you all to the introducing Microsoft 365 webinar. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you cannot hear us for any reason, could you just flag it up so that we can make sure that there are no technical issues. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to let all potential latecomers join, but we'll be getting underway. The format of the presentation or the webinar is for a solutions architect, colleague of mine, Chris Hord, to go through some of the finer points of Microsoft 365, and Oliver Moazzi, one of our technical architects, to go through some of the licensing details. So I hope that's all clear. We'll just give it another minute or so to let people join, and the next voice you hear will be that of Chris Hord.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending today for this introducing Microsoft 365. My name is Chris Hord, who's the solution architect here, being with the company for 10 years. And like Oliver, we have been involved with cloud for some time, and we're glad to be a part of this exciting presentation today, something that's going to be very big with Microsoft going forward. So the format of today is that we're going to talk about the context and the reasons for Microsoft 365. Oliver is going to give you a breakdown and deconstruction of the SKUs, and then we're going to talk about the opportunities out the back of that for our partners. Very big opportunities, ones which we think are probably as big as when Office 365 was first released. So the fact that we're already engaging with this, I think, is reflected in the central place that Microsoft 365 was at Inspire this year. So to start out, let's just move on to the first slide here and talk about the context of Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365 is a solution which aims to combat the challenges that businesses face today and which the IT admins face today. Each of these challenges I'm going to go into a little bit. So the first one here is regarding the complexity of the solutions that are in place today for most businesses. I mean, looking at the slide here, the modern workplace from which Microsoft talk about is that you have a situation whereby users expect to be mobile. The amount of devices in the market today is expanding exponentially. The amount of applications, whether that's in the cloud or on premise, is again growing at an unprecedented rate. And the amount of data, whether that's client data or data for the organization, is running riot. There's so much of it that it kind of the IT admin and people within inside their organizations ask, how are we going to be able to meet these demands of the users if they have several devices, if they need to use several applications, each different per person, and the amount of data that generates over a period of time. So against this challenge of complexity, we also have a change in what we would see as the working styles and the working cultures of organizations. We're moving away from organizations being based at one location. We're moving away from siloed working, and the workforce as well is getting younger, so that there is a culture that technology and the latest technology will be introduced within businesses and used to keep both its workers productive, to be able to support people where they want to work abroad or out of the office, or they want to work on the fly, or where they want to kind of do their work whilst traveling. And there's also the expectation that this technology will kind of meet what the business wants to do in terms of its workload. So whether there needs to be collaboration, whether there needs to be I guess the communication in various different formats. So as well as the complexity, there is different changes in the culture of organizations, which is also which is the next challenge, which is trying to keep businesses secure whilst also keeping them productive. So using multiple applications and trying to get these applications to work together, trying to support its users when taking place in different working environments, really stretches the attack vector for which organizations are exposed to. So if we look at some of the statistics here, 200 days that attackers can reside within a network. You can see here the cost that cybercrime across the globe, $500 billion, and at 3.5 million is the average cost of a data breach to the company. And when you take on board the complexity and the changing workforce styles, then we're starting to see that it's becoming increasingly difficult to protect those users, increasingly difficult to keep them productive due to their changing location. And it's these challenges, this idea of complexity, changing workforce and culture, and the added attacks and against organizations that has really kind of made Microsoft rethink of what the modern workplace is like. So you can see here that we're moving from this movement of routine tasks to more creative and critical thinking. We're moving from productive individuals to more collaborative and teams. We're moving towards multiple applications and siloed applications that are kind of don't interact with each other, to bringing across applications that work in conjunction with each other for greater productivity. And we're looking at just very simple threats, things that we've seen in the past, like worms and Trojans, moving to very sophisticated breaches within a network, trying to get through to different types of device, trying to get through in applications or other untraditional applications other than email. And these are the things that make up what Microsoft considered to be the modern workplace. And this modern workplace sits within the idea of the digital transformation is geared towards. So digital transformation is to empower its employees, engage its customers, optimize its operations, and transform its products. So Microsoft's view is that this digital transformation needs to occur to be able to tackle the challenges of the modern workplace. And this now brings us on to introducing Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 is a collection, a group of applications that is designed to meet the needs of the modern workplace. So it can be broken down into three major constituent parts, and that's Office 365, which I'm sure that you all know quite intimately, Windows 10 for the operating systems on the machines, and the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, which contains Intune, Azure, Active Directory, and other things. Now, it's not simply a case of taking these applications as siloed applications and just bundling them into the package. It's about the interrelationship between these applications. So it's how Office 365 works on Windows 10. It's how the Enterprise and Mobility Suite can secure not only Windows 10, but the devices as well. And so by putting these together, you create a very powerful solution that, if we go back to the beginning, aims to tackle head-on the complexity of the modern working environment, that aims to tackle and enable users to work and be mobile whilst not compromising on either their security or productivity. So if we were to break down what Microsoft 365 is trying to achieve, it's trying to, I guess, facilitate this idea of the modern workplace. It's about enabling the creativity and productivity of the users within the organization. It's there to promote teamwork whereas possible through its applications, and that through collaboration workers can achieve a lot more. It's about trying to keep things simple. This is important, you know, with the amount of applications just simply within Office 365, with introducing Windows and the Enterprise Mobility Suite. It's about having one point of management, one single pane of glass with which you can administrate it. And it's also about security. And when we talk about security, it's about controlling the devices, controlling the applications, not necessarily controlling users' behavior, but protecting them from situations that will expose them, about making them adherent to GDPR, but also making sure that security doesn't compromise the creativity or the teamwork or the simplicity with which to manage it. So the key thing really to think about with 365 is, and just going back one slide, is that it's Office 365, Windows 10, and Enterprise Mobility and Security, and that these are there together with an interrelationship to create, and as you can see here from the strapline, a complete, intelligent and secure solution to empower employees. So what now we can do is take a look at all the different SKUs of Microsoft 365 in a little bit more detail. And here's where, after having now done the introduction, I can hand you over to Oliver.
Thank you, Chris. So Microsoft 365 comes in three SKUs, three flavors. We have Microsoft 365 Business, and then we have Microsoft 365 E3 and Microsoft 365 E5. And you can basically select the SKU that you know is the right set of applications and functionality for the businesses that you're engaging with. So as Chris has stated, Microsoft 365 is all about Windows 10 and its Windows 10 Creators Edition, Office 365, which you should all be familiar with, providing you solutions like Exchange Online, Skype for Business, Yammer, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams. So that's all of the productivity, the modern workplace, that's facilitating all of those cloud-centric Microsoft applications that you and your customers should be familiar with. But there's an opportunity here for you. You may not be selling operating OS licensing at all to your customers, and they may have security concerns and they're reaching out to other vendors, or you're having to sell third-party products and applications that you might not be entirely happy with. So Microsoft 365 is about taking all of that and providing a kind of one solution bundle to your customers. It will put everyone on Windows 10 Creators Edition, and that includes a free upgrade. So if you have customers with Windows 7, Windows 8 or Windows 8.1 with a Microsoft 365 license, we can in place upgrade their workstation or their laptop to Windows 10 Creators Edition. It has Office 365, as I've already said, with the services and applications that you should already be familiar with. And then it introduces the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, which provides functionality like Microsoft Intune. So in the business SKU, you can see we have Exchange Online, we've got Skype for Business, and we actually get Office Business. So we get the Office Suite, Business Suite applications. So they can deploy Office onto their Windows 10 devices, and they can also make use of Office Online apps if they so wish. You can manage those Windows 10 devices that every user will now be empowered with using Microsoft Intune. So if the customer has concerns about how they deploy new applications, and that could include Office Business or other third-party applications or legacy XE applications they may need to be trying to push across the business, you can use that one pane of glass that Chris mentioned to push all of your applications and manage Windows 10 password policies, certain group policy or local policy settings. That can all be managed now, and you can provide a wholly clear cloud and Windows 10 solution. And then obviously with Windows 10 Pro, you're getting endpoint security. So you've got Windows Defender, and then we can do things in Windows 10 like doing Azure AD Join to have a more dynamic experience where the Windows 10 devices may actually be joined to a local on-premises Active Directory, but you also have the option of joining them to the Office 365 Azure AD tenant and get that experience as well. So then we can look at the Microsoft 365 Enterprise SKUs, which expand upon the abilities that the Microsoft 365 Business SKU provides. So we get solutions like Teams. We actually can now do voice and video meetings with Skype for Business. But looking at Enterprise Mobility Suite, we actually can do a lot more features and functionality. We now have access to Azure AD Premium P1. So this is not the standard Azure Active Directory solution that a customer would get with Office 365. You've now in the opportunity of it's been wholly upsold to Azure AD Premium. So you can start talking to the customer about doing multi-factor authentication to connect and access their cloud applications like Office 365 or other third-party applications that you may want to make available to the customer through the Azure Web Gallery. We still have Microsoft Intune, so you can manage all of those Windows 10 devices that the customer now has access to, and that does include managing their mobiles and tablets. So if the customer has a large Android, iOS or Windows phone and tablet landscape, you can now also manage those devices as well. So for example, you could specify that tablets or phones have to have a PIN policy before they could access corporate email, as an example. And on top of solutions like multi-factor authentication, we can also do things like conditional access. So, for example, the customer may only want their Office 365 applications to be accessed from their office locations. And if a user takes their work laptop home, they would like access to Office 365 to be withdrawn. So that's now possible. And then we have Azure Information Protection. So this extends upon Azure Rights Management. So basically this provides document encryption and document rights management protection into any Office documents or third-party documents that the customer may be working on inside their enterprise. And they can be secured wholly internally, or if those documents need to be shared with third parties or third-party vendors, we can still protect those documents and enforce information protection on those documents with those third parties. And if the customer does have an on-premises Active Directory, we have Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics. So we can actually use the power of Office 365 and Azure, and not only do we get graphical interfaces into the security and protection and availability of Office 365, but we can also pull all of the data from their on-premises Active Directory into Office 365 and provide a unified threat protection dashboard to monitor both Office 365 services and on-premises services. And then with Windows 10 Enterprise, we can start deploying more advanced Windows 10 features. And again, these can all be managed, enabled, configured, and pushed out via Microsoft Intune. So we have Credential Guard and Device Guard that actually protects credentials, for example, from certain types of malware if malware was available to get onto the device. And then obviously, from not necessarily from a security point of view, but from that modern workplace and that creativity work point, you have solutions like Windows Ink and Cortana at Work. And then moving on from the base Microsoft 365 E3 license, we finally have the Microsoft 365 E5 license that has all of the features in E3, but adds to that portfolio. We now have PSTN conferencing and cloud PBX for Skype for Business. So the customer and their employees can do PSTN conferencing. You get access to analytics. So Power BI comes into play, and the tenant also gets Delve Analytics for the users to look at how they work in their day-to-day activities and how they work with other people, and actually how managers can look at their employees and see how their employees are working and the time they're taking to engage on certain activities. And then you can add to security and compliance with Advanced Threat Protection. So Advanced Threat Protection is an additional antivirus and zero-day malware service that sits on top of Exchange Online Protection. Exchange Online Protection is the standard antivirus and anti-malware service that sits in Office 365, and ATP provides zero-day malware protection. It provides sandboxing for unknown attachment types, and it also provides solutions like safe links, where any HTML links that may get sent internally to the organization or received from external sources are actually looked at, inspected in real time. With E5, you also get an upgrade to Azure Active Directory P2 features. So that introduces Azure Identity Protection. And then we also get Microsoft Cloud App Security. So Microsoft Cloud App Security is a powerful dashboard that builds upon the E3 version. So with E3 and Microsoft Business, you'll get a dashboard that shows you all of the sign-ins that are happening for your customer in Office 365. And it may alert you to the fact that, for example, a user is logging in multiple times a day from various locations. And that's an informational alert. And that's something that you would then have to take away and work with your customer and decide if that employee really was logging in that many times and from that many locations. And if so, why are they doing that? For example, do they have a VPN that allows them to, for example, teleport between different proxy locations? With Cloud App Security, you can build upon that informational alerting and actually provide workflows. So if that employee is logging in from multiple locations, you can start to construct a workflow that says, do you know what, if they are logging in within 10 minutes from these diverse locations, what we're going to do is we're going to create a workflow that will actually halt that user's access to the service, to Office 365. It will then create an alert that can go to the customer's IT team, or better yet, go to you as the partner. And then that can be turned into a ticket, and it can be looked at, all safe in the knowledge that that user's potentially had their access revoked while a potential security incident is being looked at. So, back over to Chris.
Hi everyone. So Oliver is just broken down the SKUs, and which we see as Microsoft 365 Business, Microsoft 365 E3, and Microsoft 365 E5. And he's explained about the applications that are within those and the benefits that some of them can have. But I guess when we look at the benefits of Microsoft 365, that you can either look at those applications within those SKUs, and each one has a benefit. Your information protection is there to allow access to only the data for that particular type of document, so that no one within the organization or without has permissions to be able to open that document. Or he talks about, SharePoint in terms of being able to either store documents securely or be able to create an intranet. So in terms of the partner opportunity to, I guess, illustrate the benefits, you can break it down on an individual application level. And just to go back one slide here, so let's say to Microsoft 365 E3, there are lots of different things to talk about. You can go from an Office 365 perspective in terms of building upon their productivity. You can go at it from a security perspective and look at Azure Active Directory as the control plane for their identity. Or you can go about Intune, about controlling their mobility and enabling them to work securely from anywhere. Or you can even go at it from what Oliver mentioned, from an OS perspective, in terms of bringing up their core OS across the business, and bringing all of these applications together in one package and being built out as one, which is what a lot of organizations don't do today. But we can also go from the benefit of Microsoft 365, if we were to summarize this, I guess, from a top-down position. It goes back to those four things that we were talking about. It goes back to enabling the creativity of a new, as an increasingly younger workforce who expects to use collaborative software such as Teams in order to be able to communicate, to be able to share documents with, to be able to work on things in their time from where they want to. They may not just be office based, they may be working in several locations. It's about protecting that data. We've talked about some of the applications that would do that, Azure Information Protection, Intune. It's about protecting them against the whole device set for the organization, and that security has to be always on, because working tends to take place in all hours. It's about giving a broad set of applications. Now, these applications could be with several providers that an organization has. Most organizations, if they can get a way to reduce the number of providers that they have, where they can have a single pane of glass and a single point of management, is likely to be preferable than having these siloed applications which don't work together. And it's about that single pane of glass, not just in terms of for the users using it, but it is also about the organizations managing it. The term single pane of glass does get bounded around a lot as an almost an ideal state to get to. But recently, with the launch of Microsoft 365, Intune has just been integrated into the Azure portal, so that Azure AD and Intune can be managed from the same interface that Office 365 does. The Windows 10 can be downloaded from the same place that your Office applications are downloaded from. So this is all about not just making the workers kind of productive and creative, but also making the IT administrators. And when you really dig into these things, it can be quite vast in terms of what IT administrators can achieve with this. Just one example, and again, if I go back one slide to Microsoft 365 Enterprise P3, this has Azure Active Directory Premium P1. And what that actually does is that provides you with something called Cloud App Security. So it allows you to download agents onto the user's machine and see what applications that they're using and discover the shadow IT. If you can do that, you can then start to control those applications through Azure Active Directory and control what applications users are actually using at whatever given time. So what you're doing is you're then reducing the attack vector. Now, I guess, you know, you can say that about any application that is within here. You can make explicit links between each of these, and whether they increase the creativity of the users or whether they reduce the attack vector for that organization, or whether they're there to increase productivity. And nothing within these SKUs are just in there for filler. Each one of these has an explicit, I guess, benefit to both users and to the IT admins as well, which makes this a very powerful package and a very compelling opportunity for yourselves as partners to be able to go in and discuss this with your clients. And so not only is it about the either the top-down benefits or the benefits of each of those applications, but there's also one of the largest benefits is how Microsoft 365 is compliant with GDPR. For one of the challenges about the complexity and the changing workforce and the security is also how IT systems are becoming more compliant, how they prevent things such as data leakage, and GDPR is a very hot topic these days in cloud. And in IT in general. I'm sure that most of you have seen in the news about GDPR coming in next year, and so when you have conversations with clients, one of the first questions you're likely to be asked over the coming year is how does your solution adhere to GDPR? So Ollie and I thought it was very important to make this quite clear in that Microsoft 365 is compliant with GDPR. Of course, GDPR is a wider subject than simply what applications that you use in your business, but we can refer you to the Microsoft Trust Center, where Microsoft are making it very explicit of how it meets GDPR. So if we see here, the Enterprise Mobility Suite is a big part of that, the Cloud App Security that we've discussed, Azure Information Protection about encrypting documentation, Azure AD Premium P1 or P2, which controls the access to applications and who can access those applications. If you really delve into the Enterprise Mobility Suite, you can also do things like enforce conditional access, which means that you can set where they can access their services from. So I give you an example. If you wanted to lock it down to just the office, you can set the IPs with which you can access your services from. So that straight away would reduce the attack vector. We're talking about things like data loss prevention in Office 365, e-discovery, and the ability to analyze or search your data, and multi-factor authentication, which Oliver said earlier, which is moving beyond simple passwords to be able to bring in the second factor either on the mobile phone or through calling. Now, all of these things in themselves, as I say, GDPR goes on further than just the applications, because a lot of it is about business process. But Microsoft 365 will tick a lot of the boxes in terms of the applications you use and the measures you actually take in to protect that data and make sure that users aren't exposed to either losing that data or misappropriating it. So both the benefits and GDPR, I guess, are both opportunities for yourselves when opening up a discussion or where to introduce Microsoft 365. So to talk about the partner opportunity, Microsoft have brought out Microsoft 365 at Inspire because they see that it's going to be one of the core things that they're going to be doing over the course of the next several years. We've seen ourselves that 10 years ago, it was about taking particular applications into the cloud, whether that is Exchange or whether that is SharePoint, and that these applications will be siloed. Several years ago, Office 365 was launched, and that means is that the whole business productivity suite could now be managed completely in the cloud. Well, Microsoft 365 kind of goes one step further because it is what we would class as the beginning of managing that organization completely from the cloud. Now, Oliver touched on this earlier, is that with Microsoft 365, to get the very best out of Office 365 through Enterprise Mobility Suite and being able to control both the Windows 10 machines and the devices, the organization will need to join Azure AD as opposed to local AD. So that is one of the big opportunities. If you have organizations which don't have a local AD, or they turn around to you and say, look, I want to manage my whole organization in the cloud. I don't want to have local AD. I don't want to have my applications on premise. I want to have 100% management of that in the cloud and users to use all their applications from the cloud. Microsoft 365 is really the first vehicle that we've seen to do that. So as well as articulating the benefits and articulating the fact that it has a high level of compliance with GDPR, when the organization turns around to you and says, look, we want to kind of go all in with cloud, we don't want anything to be left on site, then that is automatically a Microsoft 365 opportunity for you to be able to do that. Also as well, if you have organizations that have a high drive to take things to the cloud in general, it's not just about having to have nothing left on site, but they want to move towards that modern workspace, and that they want to, I guess, meet those challenges that we said earlier on in the presentation. Again, these are Microsoft 365 opportunities, and these opportunities may not be from a partner that's completely outside the ecosystem. So let's say they have an on-premise platform and they have, several on-premise applications. Those are not just Microsoft 365 opportunities, but you will be able to go back to your existing Office 365 clients and transition them from Office 365 to work up to Microsoft 365. So if you're already using Office 365, if your clients are using that today, then it's a great opportunity to almost graduate from Office 365 up to Microsoft 365. So this is not just for Office 365 users, it's not just for organisations, but it provides an opportunity for all organisations, whatever the platform that they're on. Now, Oliver talked a little bit about the different SKUs. He talked about Microsoft 365 Business, and he talked about Microsoft 365 E3 and E5. We would ascertain that these plans are kind of more honed in at some organisations than others. So I would say that the baseline for a Microsoft 365 opportunity is the fact that they want to go all in cloud. And organisations that don't have a local AD are more primed, shall we say, for making that jump than others that have a local AD and have on-premise applications and may take time in using them. But the Microsoft 365 business, we see that, you know, like Microsoft, as being geared more to organisations that are under 300 users, kind of like the Business Premium. These are geared to organisations that are set on more limited budgets. It's probably unlikely that if you have a 30 user organisation that they are going to either want or be able to afford, you know, to be able to do Microsoft 365 E5. So the price of the SKUs are going to reflect that. Business, because it's the fundamental layer of Business Premium, Intune and Windows 10 Pro, is really designed for organisations with no IT manager that wants powerful security features and the productivity gains, but are not delving into advanced functionality, which tends to be more geared towards enterprise-sized clients than small to medium businesses. And it's for organisations who want the simple IT management. So again, it's about those fundamental things: rolling out Office, being able to control mobile devices, being able to have standardized Windows 10 Pro devices without necessarily having to have a complete specialist for either rolling out or managing them. And so therefore, we see on the other hand that Microsoft 365 Enterprise E3 and E5 are more towards organisations over 300 users. They have the advanced requirements, and Oliver said some of them, which is either PSTN voice or advanced e-discovery, or being able to integrate your own applications in the gallery, or having seamless single sign-on with SAML. Or which they need specific functionality, and we've put a few here. Some organisations need Excel services in SharePoint, which requires SharePoint Online Plan 2. Some need to be able to put Windows Hello with biometrics, which is only leveraged if you're using Windows 10 Enterprise. So what one of our recommendations would be is that is to really have a deep dive into those SKUs and have a look at those functionalities, because those solutions with which you go to the client are going to be based on those functionalities as much as those overall benefits and being able to have a high compliance with GDPR. So what we have done now, and this is one of the last things, is that we wanted to show you an actual case study of a client that we've already deployed Microsoft 365. It is quite important to us that we're not just pitching a product and saying that we have no experience. We have quite a substantial experience in already deploying Microsoft 365, and we wanted to translate this to real life for you to see what both problems an organisation had, how Microsoft 365 applied, and what benefits it gave them. So the client, and this client was a 40-user organisation that was based in the fashion industry, so not even pitched towards an IT organisation, came to us and basically said that they had several versions of Windows within their organisation, which meant that it was difficult to either support application, or they had applications all over the place for different OSs essentially. They had no app or security policies for those devices. Their users, it was unknown to the IT admin about even whether they were enforcing the PIN on their devices or which applications that they used on their mobiles. They'd just kind of take their own device. That device, for all they knew, could have been jailbroken. And they never knew about whether the mobiles they were having under a bring your own device policy was safe. But there was a big drive within that organisation because they wanted to go all cloud. They'd already moved to Office 365. They liked the management that it could give them, but they wanted to go that one step further, and they wanted to move away from local Active Directory. They were using no apps or file servers in conjunction with that local Active Directory. So it made all the sense to go that final stage and join with Azure and implement Microsoft 365. So in order to achieve this, we first of all upgraded all their OSs, Windows 10, to the Creators Edition, as Oliver said. We connected all of their machines to Azure Active Directory. What we then do is we then layered Intune over the top. And brought those Windows 10 and their mobile and enrolled their mobile devices so that they were all in line with compliance policy. Now, an example of a mobile compliance policy would be to ensure that the mobile phones weren't jailbroken. An example of a Windows 10 policy would be to ensure that BitLocker was on. So this is really powerful stuff with which you can monitor and enforce. And that was the solution for them in terms of they then had standardized Windows 10 devices across the board. They had compliance policies and configuration policies that went across both their Windows 10 devices and all of their mobile phones. They then had all of their apps brought in line through Azure AD, and that worked natively and managed with Office 365 through one control panel. And this is just a quotation from that IT manager. Again, unfortunately, we can't disclose the company that it is. It's given the company a clear roadmap and strategy for migration into the cloud. It's enabled them with powerful tools which can be deployed rapidly without compromising compliance or security. So there is several solutions that this has just solved. I think if we go back to that it is a solution in itself. If we break that down for all the applications that we're introducing, it can provide several solutions to organizations in one go that can make their whole experience of using IT and managing IT even better. So now this brings us on not only for the opportunity that's going to present itself to you with your clients, to yourselves, but it's also the opportunity for yourselves with Microsoft 365. And I guess we saw that this can really go one or two ways. Is that it's not just about, and this is important to understand about Microsoft 365, you can bring your own service wrap around this. You can create your own managed services on top of that. Microsoft themselves are very open about this, that Microsoft 365 shouldn't be an end in itself. It shouldn't be a destination where your continuing path to the cloud ends there. You can bring in other services like Mimecast. You can bring in global relays. You can bring in other applications that you want to lock into them to create a holistic solution you can bring across your managed services, because you don't have to expose all of these elements to your client in terms of managing them on an everyday basis. And this not only gives you managed services around Office 365, which what you're already doing, but around identity, around endpoint security, around updating their OS. This is a very thick layer that can be developed. And if you think, well, you know what, we might not have the time or resources to be able to do that, then you could always leverage Fusions. I mean, we have, and you have with us, an extensive service wrap. As I say, Mimecast, the global relays, domains, web hosting, Azure, you know, in itself. And we also have extensive professional and managed services. So whether it's you want help in migrating, in planning to move to Office 365, if you want some consultancy on 365 itself, if you want us to deploy certain parts of this, if you want us to do training or anything like that that you can think of, please come and discuss that with us. And it could be the fact that we do joint ventures together in order to do such a deployment or consultancy. But we really think that, you know, it's not just about the revenue for Office 365, it's about the stuff that you can layer on and leverage through us, which means is that you're going to maximize your revenue and maximize your return from this. So just to sum up, and we're going to be going into the Q&A now, is that we've explained about 365 and the basis for which it has come into the market with Microsoft Inspire, how it's going to be central for the next so many years. We've broken down the SKUs, which is Microsoft 365 Business, Enterprise E3 and E5. We've had a look at the benefits, both in terms of apps and the benefits of 365, the opportunities that you're likely to see in your clients, but also the opportunities for yourself as partners. And so the next step is going to be to, if you're interested in having a dialogue with us, to speak to a member of our Fusion team. You can email them at partners@fusion.cloud, or you have the number right there, or get in touch with your account manager, and Oliver and I would be happy, alongside your account managers, to have conversations and to find out more. So without further ado, I think we can go into our question session.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Oliver. Very comprehensive stuff. So obviously a lot to take on board there. Do anybody have any specific questions that they want to post onto the Q&A section? Happy to field any questions.
Okay, so we have one question here about third-party applications that we touched on. So in the Azure App Gallery, and that's publicly accessible, you can type it into Google or Bing, and you can go and look at it right now. There's over 3,000 applications that currently work via a level of integration via SAML, so federated integration, or using same sign-on, where it basically captures the password and then allows the user to log in using their Office 365 credentials. So you can go to the Azure Web App Gallery and you can look at the 3,000 applications to see if your customers' third-party applications are supported today to provide that kind of single unified username and password experience to not only Office 365, but to their third-party applications. They may use a third-party CRM or HR system, or even like a solution like Twitter. But the question that's being asked is, what about my on-premises applications? So if you do have, or you've got larger customers that will probably need the benefits of E3 or E5 in regards to Microsoft 365, you can actually do application proxy. So if there's an on-premises app that you can't retire right now, you can create an application proxy through to the on-premises infrastructure, and then you can publish that on-premises application with all of the Office 365 applications, with any third-party applications that are supported, and then you can also put that on-premises application into the user's Office 365 work portal.
Okay, that's fantastic. I think we've pricing. Now, the enterprise SKUs, the Microsoft 365 is not currently priced at £28 per user per month. E5, please don't quote me absolutely on this, I think is £51.60. The reason for why that is quite a bit more is because it includes the cloud PDX, the voice functionality, the advanced e-discovery, and quite a lot of the high value features in the Microsoft stack. In terms of Microsoft 365 Business, the pricing has not been released for that yet. It's currently in public preview, with pricing to be shortly. We would expect, and again, please don't take this as absolute, somewhere in the region of between £15 and £20 per user per month.
As soon as the pricing is announced, we will be placing it on the Vusion Partner Portal for everybody to see. We've got a question about the average time to deploy an Office 365 company, for example, with 10 users.
Okay, so the 40-user organisation took roughly between, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks to be able to do it. So between 2 to 3 weeks for 40-user organisation. Between 10, there are various methods with Office 365. You can migrate in terms of password, or you can phase them over and introduce them. Because it's the Windows machines, the Enterprise Mobility Suite and Office 365 in itself, I think for a 10-user organisation, you would be looking at, I would say, between maybe 1 to 2 weeks in order to be able to deploy it fully, test it, and make sure that everything's going well with that organisation. There is certainly room for professional services work in order to be able to do that deployment.
Okay, we've got another question. Microsoft Intune, is Mac OS and Mac OS X supported? Yes. So obviously with Microsoft 365, one of the benefits of this is legacy Windows laptops and workstations basically get an upgrade to Windows 10 Creators Edition. But if you do have Macs on the network, or you have users using Macs, Intune does support them, so you can create policies for Mac OS and Mac OS X, and deploy policies to them.
Okay, I think that's just about it in terms of questions and answers. Just to reiterate, if there's anything that anybody needs in terms of questions, please ping a mail into partners@vusion.cloud, or give us a call on 0333 009 5937. So many thanks to Chris and Ollie. I'm sure it's stimulated a lot of interest out there, and we're here to help in any way that you want us to. So many thanks for attending.